Stop living for the opinions of people who don't live your life. Stop measuring your worth by the approval of those who don't even approve of themselves. Every moment you care what others think, you hand them control over your emotions, your focus, your destiny. This audiobook is not about arrogance. It's about freedom. Freedom from comparison. Freedom from judgment. Freedom from needing to be seen. Today, you learn how to take your energy back, silence the noise, and build your life on your own terms. This is the strength of not caring what others think. Chapter 1. Stop letting opinions define you. You've built your identity on the reflection others hand you. But that reflection is distorted. It's cracked. It's inconsistent. And the longer you stare into it, the less of yourself you actually see. That's the truth most people never face. You are not who they say you are. You are who you decide you are. And until you stop letting opinions define you, you will always live as a shadow of yourself, performing for approval. Instead of building for purpose, you've been conditioned to care. Since you were a child, you've been trained to seek the nod, the compliment, the good job. It starts early. The approval of teachers, friends, parents. And it follows you into adulthood. Bosses, followers, strangers on the internet. Every like becomes a hit of validation. Every dislike feels like rejection. And you start adjusting who you are to avoid disapproval. You stop speaking your mind. You start blending in. You shrink. But listen carefully. That's not humility. That's fear. That's control. And it's the reason so many strong minds never realize their potential. You have to understand, people will always have opinions. It's their favorite sport. They'll talk, they'll judge, they'll criticize, because it distracts them from facing themselves. That's what most opinions are, projection. People speak about you through the filter of their own insecurity. When someone says, "You've changed," what they really mean is, "You're no longer making me comfortable." When someone says, "You're selfish," what they often mean is, "You're finally prioritizing yourself instead of me." You see the pattern? Their opinions are not about you. They're about them. You have a choice. You can live for approval, or you can live for truth. You can please the crowd, or you can pursue your calling. But you cannot do both. Every great person in history, every visionary, every leader, every creator, had to make peace with being misunderstood. They were called crazy before they were called genius. They were mocked before they were admired. They were doubted before they were followed. That's the price of self-definition. That's the cost of authenticity. You don't get to be both accepted and original. You must choose. Let's get real. If you're tired of feeling trapped by what people think, stop feeding the machine. Stop checking how you're perceived. Stop defending yourself to those who refuse to understand. Stop explaining your every move. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. Your value does not rise or fall with their opinion. Your purpose does not shift because someone doesn't approve. That's the key. You define you. Say it again. You define you. Not your parents, not your friends, not your boss, not the internet. You. Here's the truth most people never grasp. Nobody is thinking about you as much as you think they are. They're too busy worrying about themselves. Everyone's trapped inside their own mind, overanalyzing their own mistakes, fearing their own judgment. They don't have time to obsess over you. They're fighting their own battles, wearing their own masks. So when you feel paralyzed by what people might say, remember this. They won't remember it tomorrow. The moment passes. Their attention shifts. But your hesitation? That stays. Your fear? That grows. Your potential, that dies slowly every time you let their opinion decide your next move. So what do you do instead? You build, you create, you act. You live aligned with your own values, not their expectations. Every time you choose yourself, your voice gets stronger. Every time you stay silent to keep the peace, your power fades. It's not about arrogance, it's about integrity. It's about living by your own compass instead of everyone else's map. Here's a practice. Before you make a decision, ask yourself, would I still do this if nobody ever found out? If the answer is no, you're performing. If the answer is yes, you're free. That's the test of authenticity. That's how you take your power back. It's time to draw the line. Stop giving emotional access to people who haven't earned it. Stop letting their opinions set the direction of your life. Their approval won't pay your bills. Their validation won't build your discipline. Their applause won't sustain your peace. Every time you choose peace over performance, you get stronger. Every time you choose self-respect over attention, you gain power. And every time you choose purpose over popularity, you become unstoppable. You have a choice. Choose wisely, because every second you waste trying to be liked is a second you could have spent becoming powerful. The world will always have something to say. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them doubt. Their noise doesn't define your path unless you let it. The greatest revenge against criticism is not defense, it's progress. Keep moving, keep building, keep becoming who you were meant to be, even when they don't understand. Repeat it to yourself until it sticks. They don't define you. You define you. Say it again. They don't define you. You define you. Every morning, every setback, every judgment, remember it. You are the only person who gets to decide who you become. Let this be your new mindset. You don't need to be liked. You need to be respected by yourself. You don't need to be seen. You need to be certain. You don't need to fit in. You need to stand firm. The goal isn't to avoid judgment. It's to be immune to it. You build that immunity by living aligned with your truth, not theirs. By acting on conviction, not permission. By learning that peace comes when you stop performing. That's what emotional freedom looks like. That's what mental toughness feels like. That's what quiet discipline produces. You define you, always. Chapter 2. The Silent Cost of Seeking Validation. Validation feels good. Let's be honest. It feels amazing. That quick hit of approval, that compliment, that "you're doing great." It feels like energy, but it's fake energy. It fades, and when it fades, you crash. Because validation isn't fuel, it's a drug, and every time you use it, you weaken your own supply of self-respect. That's the silent cost. Every time you seek approval, you train your brain to doubt itself. You tell your subconscious, my worth depends on their reaction. And like a muscle that's never used, your self-belief starts to atrophy. Slowly, quietly, consistently. We live in an era of validation addiction. Every scroll, every post, every status update is a cry for approval disguised as sharing. We will upload a picture. You say it's just for fun, but you check back every few minutes. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, but you still count the likes. You say you're confident, but your emotions rise and fall with the feedback. That's not freedom. That's dependency. You've traded your power for applause, and the applause never lasts. Let's talk about how this plays out in the real world. At work, you don't speak your full truth because you fear being judged. You nod along in meetings just to look agreeable. You overwork, not because you love excellence, but because you're addicted to being seen as reliable. On social media, you post what will get engagement, not what reflects your real thoughts. You edit yourself, filter yourself, dilute yourself, because you're terrified of being disliked. In relationships, you overgive, you over-explain, you overcompensate. You mistake approval for connection. You start performing instead of being. Every one of these moments costs you something. They cost you authenticity. They cost you confidence. They cost you peace. You have a choice. You can live for validation or you can live for conviction. But you cannot have both. If you build your confidence on other people's approval, it will collapse the moment they withdraw it. But if you build it on your discipline, your purpose, and your principles, no one can take it away. That's the key. It's not about chasing approval. It's about mastering self-trust. Because self-trust is the foundation of freedom. Let's break this down. When you act for validation, you move from insecurity. When you act from discipline, you move from purpose. One drains you, the other builds you. Validation says, "Look at me." Discipline says, "Watch me work." Validation says, "Am I enough yet?" Discipline says, "I decide when I'm enough." You see the difference? One keeps you small, the other makes you strong. Here's the trap most people fall into. They confuse validation with motivation. They think they need praise to perform. They think they need applause to take action. But the truth is, motivation that depends on validation will always collapse under pressure. Because when the compliments stop, the work stops. When the audience disappears, so does the effort. That's not power. That's weakness. That's emotional dependence dressed as drive. You want to know what real strength looks like? It's showing up when no one's clapping. It's doing the work when no one's watching. It's staying consistent when the world is silent. That's the power of internal validation. That's what separates the disciplined from the dependent. Let's be clear. Wanting recognition isn't the problem. Needing it is. It's okay to enjoy appreciation, but it's not okay to rely on it. Because when you rely on it, you lose control. You hand your emotions over to the crowd. You let strangers decide how you feel about yourself. You become reactive instead of relentless. You become needy instead of grounded. You start living from a place of lack, constantly chasing, constantly proving, constantly seeking permission. You don't need their permission. You never did. Here's the transformation. Stop asking, "Do they approve?" Start asking, "Am I aligned?" Stop asking, "Do they like me?" Start asking, "Do I respect myself?" Every time you act from alignment instead of approval, you take your power back. Every time you choose respect over recognition, you become untouchable. It's not about being heartless. It's about being whole. You don't need the world to clap for you when you're already proud of yourself. You don't need applause when your purpose keeps you anchored. You don't need recognition when your results speak louder than your words. That's what quiet discipline looks like. Let's talk about recovery. Because breaking validation addiction takes work. You don't just stop caring overnight. You retrain your mind. You rebuild your identity. Step 1. Awareness. Catch yourself when you seek approval. Notice the impulse to check the phone, to overshare, to fish for feedback. Pause. Breathe. Don't act on it. That's control. Step 2. Realignment. Replace validation-seeking behavior with self-validation habits. Keep promises to yourself. Track your discipline, not your likes. Set goals that nobody sees and hit them anyway. Step 3. Detachment. Understand this. You will disappoint people. You will be misunderstood. You will be ignored. That's the price of freedom. Accept it. Embrace it. Because their silence is where your power grows. You have a choice. You can keep chasing approval, or you can chase mastery. You can keep feeding the addiction, or you can starve it by standing still in your conviction. Validation is easy. Discipline is hard. But only one builds strength that lasts. The truth is, validation is a short-term fix for a long-term void. It gives you comfort, but steals your courage. It gives you attention, but kills your authenticity. It gives you a high, but drains your power. You don't need to be noticed to matter. You don't need to be liked to lead. You don't need to be celebrated to be significant. Stop performing. Start becoming. Stop chasing approval. Start building respect. Stop feeding the addiction. Start fueling your purpose. The silent cost of seeking validation is your self-respect. Don't pay that price. Not anymore. Because when you stop needing applause, you gain freedom. When you stop seeking permission, you gain control. And when you stop depending on validation, you finally meet yourself, the real you, the disciplined you, the unstoppable you. Chapter 3. Confidence comes from action, not approval. Confidence is not a gift. It's not luck. It's not something you're born with. Confidence is a consequence. It's the direct result of what you do, not what you're told, not what others think, not what you post. It's built, not given. You don't become confident by being told you're good. You become confident by doing what others won't. That's the truth. That's the key. And once you understand that, you'll stop chasing validation and start building proof. Confidence is built in motion. It's built in sweat. It's built in silence when no one is clapping. Because every time you take action, you're teaching your mind a new story. I can do this. I can handle it. I follow through. Every small act of discipline becomes evidence, and evidence is what kills doubt. You don't need another motivational quote. You don't need another pep talk. You need proof. Proof from your own effort. Proof from your own consistency. That's the foundation of confidence. Self-evidence. The mind stops questioning when the body keeps delivering. Here's what most people get wrong. They think confidence comes first. They wait until they feel ready. They wait until they feel certain. But readiness doesn't create action. Action creates readiness. Action creates proof, and proof creates confidence. You have a choice. You can wait to feel ready, or you can start and become ready through movement. You can wait for approval, or you can act your way into belief. You decide. The confident don't wait. They move. They fail. They adjust. They repeat. They act first. They approve later. Act first. Approve later. That's your mantra from this chapter. Say it again. Act first. Approve later. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop asking for reassurance. Stop delaying your growth because you don't feel confident yet. Confidence doesn't come from comfort. It comes from confrontation. Confronting your fear. Confronting your excuses. Confronting your limits. Every uncomfortable action you take tells your brain, I'm capable. And that's what rewires your identity. Think of a time you avoided something because you didn't feel confident enough. A conversation you never had. An opportunity you didn't take. A dream you never pursued. You told yourself you weren't ready. But what if you had started anyway? What if you had failed, learned, and adjusted? Where would you be now? You'd be stronger, wiser, more certain. Because action teaches you what approval never can. That confidence is built, not bestowed. Look around. The people who radiate real confidence aren't the loudest. They're the most consistent. They have proof in motion. They don't talk about what they're going to do. They do it. They don't announce discipline. They live it. Because real confidence is quiet. It's steady. It's earned. It doesn't need to shout, because the results speak. When you rely on approval, your confidence rises and falls with the crowd. But when you rely on action, your confidence compounds with every effort. It grows in private, then shows up in public. That's the difference between false confidence and real confidence. False confidence is loud. It's dependent. It needs likes, praise, and reassurance. Real confidence is calm. It's disciplined. It's built in solitude. And it doesn't need applause to know it's winning. You have to decide which kind you want. Let's get practical. How do you build confidence through action? 3 steps. Step 1. Start small. Confidence grows like a muscle, through repetition, not intensity. Pick one thing and follow through. Wake up earlier. Train consistently. Keep a promise to yourself. The action doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be real. Every time you follow through, you deposit evidence into your mental bank, and the balance compounds. That's the key. Consistency, not size. Step 2. Stop overthinking. You don't need more information, you need more execution. Overthinking kills confidence because it replaces movement with mental noise. You don't need to analyze every outcome. You need to act and learn. You can't think your way into confidence. You must move your way into it. Every overthought plan is just delayed courage. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. Action cures doubt. Step 3. Review your wins. Confidence is remembering what you've overcome. Most people forget their victories because they're too busy chasing new validation. Stop and recognize your own proof. Write it down. Reflect on it. Every goal you've met, every fear you've faced, that's evidence. That's your record. That's your foundation. You don't need their applause when you have your own track record. You don't need their words when you have your own results. That's how you approve yourself. You can keep waiting to feel confident, or you can earn it through discipline. You can keep asking for permission, or you can act without it. You can keep searching for external validation, or you can create internal evidence. The world rewards the doer, not the dreamer. The talker gets attention. The doer gets respect. The disciplined get results. Confidence doesn't come from being told you're great. It comes from knowing you didn't quit. It comes from seeing your own growth. It comes from watching yourself follow through again and again and again. That's what creates unshakable belief. Not praise, not approval, not applause. Just action. It's not about ego. It's about evidence. It's not about pretending you're strong. It's about proving that you are. It's not about feeling ready. It's about becoming ready through repetition. Every time you take action, you create data your mind can't deny. Every time you push through fear, you prove to yourself that you can. Every time you keep going when no one's watching, you become bulletproof. That's real confidence, forged in the fire of effort. So stop waiting to feel it. Stop looking for it. Stop begging for it. Start building it. You don't need another person to tell you that you're capable. You need to prove it to yourself through what you do. Confidence is self-approval built through action. It's the natural byproduct of courage, and courage only shows up in motion. Act first, approve later. That's how you grow. That's how you transform. That's how you become unstoppable. Chapter 4. The Power of Emotional Detachment. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It's not indifference. It's not apathy. Emotional detachment is control. It's the ability to feel everything without being ruled by anything. It's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about mastering your response to them. Because here's the truth. The strongest person in the room isn't the loudest. It's the calmest. It's the one who doesn't flinch when others panic. It's the one who chooses silence over reaction, strategy over impulse, and clarity over chaos. That's real power. Most people lose themselves in emotion. They let anger make decisions. They let fear dictate their direction. They let anxiety control their actions. And when they calm down, they realize they gave away their power again. You've done it before. You reacted too fast. You said something you didn't mean. You made a move out of frustration instead of focus. You let someone's words control your peace. That's what emotional weakness looks like. And you have a choice. Stay reactive or become unshakable. The world will test your emotions every single day. People will provoke you. Situations will frustrate you. Circumstances will disappoint you. And if you don't learn how to detach, you'll drown in your reactions. You'll waste energy fighting battles that don't matter. You'll let small moments ruin big opportunities. You'll burn out trying to control what was never yours to control. That's why detachment is not a luxury. It's a necessity. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You can't control people. You can't control outcomes. You can't control every situation. But you can control yourself. You can control your tone. You can control your pace. You can control when to engage and when to walk away. That's the key. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding for everything. It means you stop giving emotional access to people who haven't earned it. It means you stop handing over your peace like it's free. It means you stop reacting to every opinion, every insult, every inconvenience. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their validation to stay focused. You don't need their understanding to move forward. Let's make it practical. How do you practice emotional detachment in real life? 3 steps. Step 1. Pause before reacting. You don't need to respond immediately. Silence is power. Every second you pause gives your rational mind time to take over. You can't control the first emotion that rises, but you can control the second action that follows. That's the moment of mastery. When someone disrespects you, pause. When life frustrates you, pause. When you feel anger building, pause, breathe, recenter. Respond with reason, not emotion. That's detachment in action. Step 2. Detach from outcome. You cannot control how people respond. You cannot force them to understand you. You cannot guarantee the result. But you can control your effort. You can control your focus. You can control how much power you give to what you can't change. The person who needs a specific outcome is a prisoner. The person who detaches from it is free. Do your best, then let it go. Don't chase closure. Don't beg for fairness. Don't demand control. Focus on what's yours to improve and release what's not. That's strength. Step 3. Observe your emotions instead of becoming them. You are not your anger. You are not your sadness. You are not your frustration. You have those emotions, but you are not ruled by them. Imagine watching your emotions like clouds passing by. You don't need to chase them or fight them. You just need to see them, understand them, and let them pass. That's detachment. It's not denial. It's discipline. It's awareness. When you can observe emotion without surrendering to it, you've reached a level of control most people never find. Here's a real-world example. Imagine you're at work. Someone criticizes your idea in front of others. Your ego flares up. Your instinct is to defend, to snap back, to prove yourself. But you pause. You breathe. You detach. You realize their criticism says more about them than it does about you. You respond with calm clarity instead of anger. And everyone in the room sees something they rarely see: composure under pressure. That's emotional power. That's quiet dominance. That's what wins long term. Or think about rejection. Someone you trusted disappoints you. Someone you cared for walks away. You feel the sting, but you don't collapse. You don't beg. You don't chase. You don't spiral. You acknowledge the emotion, but you refuse to be consumed by it. You say to yourself, "This hurts, but it doesn't control me." That's detachment. That's emotional maturity. You have a choice: to feed the pain or to learn from it. You can't stop betrayal, but you can stop giving it your peace. You can't stop rejection, but you can stop letting it rewrite your worth. That's the difference between emotion and control. Detachment is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's not suppression. It's self-command. It's not a wall. It's a filter. You learn to filter what deserves your energy and what doesn't. You stop reacting to nonsense. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing clarity from chaos. You understand this. Peace is more valuable than being right. Focus is more valuable than being heard. And composure is more valuable than validation. That's the mindset of strength. You have to decide. Do you want to be emotional, or do you want to be effective? Do you want to be reactive, or do you want to be resilient? Because you can't be both. Emotional detachment isn't about avoiding life. It's about mastering it. It's about showing up with calm in chaos. It's about holding your ground when others lose theirs. It's about knowing that power doesn't come from control over others. It comes from control over yourself. So from this point forward, when the world provokes you, when people test you, when life throws chaos your way, don't give them your reaction. Give them your stillness. Give them your discipline. Give them your silence. Because silence is strategy, stillness is strength, and detachment is dominance. The one who can feel without being ruled, think without being clouded, and act without being provoked. That's the one who wins. Chapter 5. The Discipline of Being Misunderstood. Every strong person learns this early. You will be misunderstood. If you're bold enough to think differently, if you're disciplined enough to move in silence, if you're focused enough to stay on your path, someone will label you wrong. They'll call you arrogant when you're confident. They'll call you cold when you're focused. They'll call you selfish when you finally start prioritizing peace. And that's fine. That's the price. That's the tax you pay for authenticity. Because here's the truth. If everyone understands you, you're not being real. You're being convenient. People want to box you in. They want you predictable, explainable, small. They want you to fit their comfort zone. And the moment you don't, they'll criticize. That's where most people fold. They start explaining. They start defending. They start seeking approval for their truth. And that's where they lose their power. You have to understand something. You don't owe anyone an explanation for the life you're building. You don't owe anyone a justification for your peace. You don't owe anyone a breakdown of your boundaries. You have one mission: execute. That's it. Stop explaining. Start executing. Explanations dilute energy. Every time you try to make someone get it, you pull focus away from what matters: progress. People don't understand what they haven't earned the perspective to see. You can't explain discipline to the undisciplined. You can't explain purpose to the aimless. You can't explain self-control to those addicted to chaos. And you don't need to, because the goal isn't to be understood. The goal is to be effective. Think about this. When a seed is buried in the soil, no one claps for it. No one praises it. No one even sees it. To the outside world, it looks dead. But underground, it's growing. Quietly, patiently, powerfully. That's how your discipline works. That's how your transformation works. It's not meant to be understood in the middle. People will misread your silence as weakness. They'll mislabel your grind as obsession. They'll call your boundaries ego. They'll call your peace distance. Let them. Let them misunderstand. You don't need their permission to evolve. You don't need their comprehension to keep moving. There's a kind of strength that only grows in isolation. When you stop chasing understanding, you start building self-trust. Because every time you explain yourself, you're really asking for permission. You're really saying, "Is it okay if I'm this person now?" Stop asking. You have a choice: to waste years seeking validation or to build years of proof. You can explain who you are, or you can show it through relentless action. Only one changes your life. Most people will never get it because they're not meant to. Your vision was shown to you, not them. Your discipline belongs to you, not them. Your standard is yours to carry, not to convince others of. If you wait until everyone understands before you act, you'll wait forever. If you keep explaining, you'll stay stuck. They don't have to see it. They don't have to approve it. They don't have to applaud it. Because by the time they finally get it, you'll already be there. That's the beauty of staying misunderstood. Your results become the explanation. Let's make this practical. How do you live with being misunderstood without losing your mind? Step 1. Stop over-communicating. You don't have to clarify your every move. You don't have to justify your every choice. When people question your focus, let them. When they gossip about your silence, let them. When they call your standards too much, let them. You don't owe anyone an emotional receipt for your discipline. You owe yourself consistency. Stop explaining. Start executing. Step 2. Don't personalize ignorance. When people misunderstand you, it's not about you. It's about the limits of their perception. They see through the lens of their insecurity. They hear through the filter of their fear. When they call you cold, they're really projecting their weakness. When they call you arrogant, they're really threatened by your certainty. When they call you selfish, they're just uncomfortable with your self-respect. Don't take it personally. Let them talk. While they're explaining you, you're evolving beyond them. Step 3. Let your work speak. You don't fight misunderstanding with words. You fight it with results. You don't correct their opinion. You outgrow their perspective. Silence is not surrender. It's a strategy. It's emotional detachment applied to identity. You don't need to prove your intentions when your results are undeniable. Because here's the truth. When your life starts changing, when your energy shifts, when your standards rise, you will outpace the understanding of those who refuse to grow. Don't slow down to be understood. Don't shrink to be accepted. Don't dilute to be liked. You're not here to fit in. You're here to evolve. Here's what no one tells you. The misunderstood are always the ones who move the world forward. The disciplined are always the ones who walk alone before anyone joins them. The focused are always the ones who seem different until they succeed. That's the cycle. First, they doubt you. Then, they mock you. Then, they copy you. Then, They ask how you did it. And all you have to do is smile, because you didn't waste energy convincing. You just kept moving. You didn't explain your grind. You proved it. You didn't beg for understanding. You built results that speak louder than words ever could. That's how the disciplined live. You have to develop emotional calluses. You have to toughen your mind against misunderstanding. You have to make peace with being misread, misjudged, and mislabeled. Because that's what happens when you walk your own path. You will lose people who only liked the version of you that stayed small. You will be criticized by those who never had the courage to try. You will be questioned by those who are still afraid to start. And that's fine. That's not your burden. That's their mirror. You don't need to explain yourself to the world. You need to execute your vision in the dark until it shines. Stop explaining. Start executing. Let them misunderstand your silence. Let them misread your distance. Let them think what they want. Because while they're talking, you're building. While they're guessing, you're growing. While they're doubting, you're becoming. You have a choice. Chase understanding or chase mastery. You can't do both. That's the discipline of being misunderstood. And it's one of the highest forms of freedom you'll ever earn. Chapter 6. Focus on building, not impressing. The goal is not to look successful. The goal is to become successful. Most people forget that. They spend their energy trying to appear disciplined instead of actually being disciplined. They chase attention instead of progress. They perform instead of produce. And that's why they stay stuck, exhausted, distracted, and empty. You can post like a winner and still live like a loser. You can talk about growth and never grow. You can look busy and accomplish nothing. That's the trap of modern validation. We mistake image for impact. Real success doesn't care how it looks. It's quiet. It's unglamorous. It's behind the scenes, where nobody's watching. The person who wins long-term isn't the one with the loudest story. It's the one with the longest focus. The one who can disappear for a year and come back unrecognizable. The one who works while others perform. The one who builds when others broadcast. That's the difference. While they talk, I build. While they doubt, I work. While they scroll, I grow. That's the mantra. Repeat it until it's your reality. Every time you choose to impress instead of build, you pay a price. You lose energy. You lose focus. You lose the only thing that creates results: time. You don't get stronger by posting your grind. You get stronger by doing it. You don't earn respect by announcing your plans. You earn it by executing them in silence. That's the key. Silence. Silence is the soil where real growth happens. But we live in a culture obsessed with display. People want the appearance of discipline without the pain of discipline. They want the applause without the work. They want to be seen winning before they've even started. That's not ambition. That's addiction, an addiction to attention. Ask yourself honestly, are you working for results or recognition? Do you want to grow or just look like you're growing? Do you want peace or do you want applause? Because you can't have both, not at the same time. You have to choose. You have to decide what matters more, being impressive or being effective. If your goal is to impress, you'll stay busy. If your goal is to build, you'll stay focused. One chases image, the other builds identity. That's the difference between noise and power. Let's make it real. Think about social media. Think about how easy it is to look like you're doing something. You post a motivational quote. You share a photo of your workspace. You talk about your goals, and it feels like progress. But it's not. It's performance. It's a dopamine hit disguised as purpose. Meanwhile, the real builders are in the background, silent, steady, and consistent. They don't talk about the plan. They execute it. They don't need eyes on them. They need results in front of them. While they talk, I build. While they doubt, I work. While they scroll, I grow. That's your creed now. Here's the truth. Real work is boring. It's repetitive. It's invisible. It doesn't get likes. It doesn't get praise. It doesn't go viral. But it works. That's why most people quit. They can't handle the silence. They can't handle the invisibility phase, the part of success that nobody celebrates. They want instant recognition, not delayed mastery. They want proof before patience. You have to be different. You have to be the one who stays consistent when nobody's watching. You have to fall in love with the unseen hours, the quiet grind, the internal victories, because that's where transformation happens, when nobody's clapping. Think about construction. The most important part of any building is the foundation, and it's built underground. No one sees it, no one praises it, but without it, everything collapses. Your life is the same. Your habits, your mindset, your discipline, that's your foundation. And it's built in private. Stop worrying about who sees it. Start worrying about whether it's solid. Because here's what happens when you focus on impressing. You build on weak ground. Your success becomes a performance, not a reality. It looks good until pressure hits. Then it crumbles. Don't build for likes. Build for legacy. You have a choice. You can chase visibility, or you can chase victory. One feeds your ego. The other feeds your future. You don't need their permission to build quietly. You don't need their applause to keep going. You don't need their recognition to validate your progress. You need focus. You need consistency. You need time. Because success doesn't respond to noise. It responds to discipline. Let's break this down into action steps. Step 1. Audit your attention. How much of your time is spent performing instead of producing? How much of your focus is spent sharing instead of doing? Every minute you spend trying to impress is a minute stolen from your growth. That's the first correction. Reclaim your focus. Step 2. Shift from talking to tracking. Stop announcing your plans. Start measuring your progress. The world doesn't need your intentions. It needs your execution. Keep a scorecard that only you see. Hold yourself accountable to real metrics, not public praise. That's discipline. Step 3. Embrace invisibility. Disappear for a season. Let your results make the noise later. If they can't see what you're building, good. That's how it should be. Your focus should be on the foundation, not the spotlight. That's how winners move. You'll notice something happens when you stop trying to impress. Your energy increases. Your clarity sharpens. Your pace accelerates. Because you're no longer performing for approval. You're producing for progress. You stop chasing the illusion of success and start living the reality of it. You stop managing your image and start mastering your craft. And suddenly, you realize the people you once tried to impress are now watching you in silence, wondering how you did it. You didn't explain. You didn't promote. You didn't announce. You just built. While they talked, you built. While they doubted, you worked. While they scrolled, you grew. That's the rhythm of power. Building beats impressing every time, because the goal isn't to be noticed, it's to be undeniable. The goal isn't to look ready, it's to be ready. The goal isn't to post progress, it's to live it. You have a choice. Chase clout or chase consistency. Perform or produce. Talk or build. Only one will change your life. Focus on building, not impressing. Because one feeds your ego, the other feeds your future. Chapter 7. Detach from the outcome. You can't control what others think. You can't control what they say. You can't control what they feel. You can only control what you do. That's the foundation of emotional mastery. That's the root of inner peace. That's the definition of power. Control over yourself, not over outcomes. Because the truth is, outcomes are unstable. They're unpredictable. They depend on 1,000 moving parts, many of which will never be in your hands. So the more you attach your peace to the result, the more fragile you become. You have to detach, not because you don't care, but because you do. Let me say it clearly. Detachment is not indifference. It's discipline. It's the discipline of focusing only on what's within your control. It's the ability to keep your mind steady when life gets chaotic. It's the decision to anchor your worth to your effort, not to the outcome of that effort. That's the key. When you detach from the outcome, you take your power back. When you obsess over it, you give your power away. And that's what most people do. They give their energy to things they can't control. They give their peace to circumstances they can't predict. They live like emotional puppets, yanked around by every high and low. You have a choice. You can live like that, reactive, fragile, dependent, or you can learn to stand still in the storm. Look at the Stoics. They built their entire philosophy around one principle: control the controllable, release the rest. Epictetus said it perfectly. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. It's that simple. But simplicity doesn't mean ease, because the human ego hates letting go. It wants to control everything: the timing, the response, the recognition. It wants guarantees. It wants comfort. But mastery begins where control ends. You grow when you release the illusion that you can dictate outcomes. You can't. You never could. All you can do is show up with precision, with focus, with integrity, and let the results take care of themselves. Let me give you an example. Think about an elite athlete. They train for years. They study the game. They sharpen every detail. But when they step into competition, they can't control the referee. They can't control the weather. They can't control how their opponent performs. What they can control is their execution, their preparation, their mindset, their response. That's what separates the pros from the amateurs. The amateur is outcome obsessed. They need to win to feel worthy. The professional is process obsessed. They play to perform, not to please. They know the truth. When you master the process, the outcome takes care of itself. That's the mindset you need. Detachment is the superpower of all high performers. Athletes, creators, leaders. They all understand one law. The more you cling, the more you choke. The more you force, the more you fumble. Tension destroys precision. Attachment kills clarity. When you're desperate for an outcome, your judgment clouds. You hesitate. You overthink. You stop acting from strength and start reacting from fear. But when you let go, when you focus purely on your effort, everything sharpens. You move freely. You think clearly. You perform at your peak. That's the paradox of detachment. You do better when you care less about the result. Here's how this plays out in real life. You send the message, no reply. You launch the project, no traction. You share your work, no validation. Most people spiral. They start questioning their worth. They start chasing approval. They start forcing outcomes. But the disciplined person stays calm. They don't chase. They don't beg. They don't over-explain. They just move on, focused, steady, grounded. Because they know one thing. Results don't define effort. Feedback doesn't define value. They're detached. Let's make this practical. Step 1. Define what's in your control. Write it down. Your thoughts, your actions, your habits, your attitude. That's it. That's your entire domain of power. Everything else, timing, response, recognition, is outside of it. Release it. Step 2. Rewire your focus. Every time your mind fixates on what if or when will it happen, bring it back to what can I do right now. That's detachment in action. That's mental toughness, choosing presence over panic. Step 3. Trust the process. You can't control when it pays off. You can only control that it pays off through persistence. That's the discipline. That's what separates the consistent from the emotional. Here's a truth most people can't handle. You can do everything right and still not get the result you want, at least not right away. That's life. That's reality. You don't get to control the harvest. You only control the planting. But the weak mind takes that personally. It gets bitter. It quits. The strong mind understands. Results are delayed, not denied. Time tests your patience before it rewards your persistence. That's why detachment matters. It keeps you steady through the waiting. You don't collapse just because the outcome isn't immediate. You keep building. You keep showing up. You keep proving that your discipline isn't dependent on validation. That's real strength. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care so deeply that you refuse to let the outcome control you. It means you trust your process more than your emotions. It means you're driven by purpose, not pressure. You're not trying to force success. You're becoming the kind of person who attracts it. And that's a different kind of power. Because once you stop chasing, you start magnetizing. Once you stop forcing, you start flowing. Once you stop grasping for control, you finally gain it over yourself. That's the paradox. That's the shift. You have a choice. You can keep living chained to the outcome, anxious, reactive, drained. Or you can choose mastery, steady, calm, unshakable. When you detach, you don't lose control. You gain clarity. You don't lose motivation. You gain focus. You don't stop caring. You start creating. Detach from the outcome. Attach to the effort, because effort is yours forever. Outcome never is. Remember this mantra. I focus on the controllable. I release the rest. Say it again. Live it every day. Because that's where real freedom begins. In the moment you stop fighting for control you never had. You can't control others. You can't control outcomes. You can control you. And that's all you ever needed. Chapter 8. The Power of Solitude. Most people fear solitude. They fear being alone with their thoughts. They fear the silence. But silence is where strong minds are forged. That's the key. In solitude, you meet yourself without filters. No distractions, no performance, no noise. Just you and the truth. Most people never face that truth. They drown it out with music, with scrolling, with endless conversation. They mistake constant connection for meaning. They think noise equals life, but it doesn't. Noise equals avoidance, and avoidance kills growth. You have a choice. Keep escaping into noise, or step into silence and meet your real self. That's where strength begins, not in the crowd, but in the quiet. Solitude is not loneliness. Let's make that clear. Loneliness is emptiness. Solitude is power. Loneliness is when you crave others to fill the void. Solitude is when you fill it yourself. Loneliness drains. Solitude builds. Loneliness feeds insecurity. Solitude fuels clarity. That's the difference between weak minds and disciplined ones. Weak minds need constant company to feel secure. Disciplined minds seek solitude to stay grounded. You don't need their attention to know your worth. You don't need their approval to move forward. You don't need their company to find peace. That's the power of solitude. Self-reliance at the deepest level. Think about it. Every major transformation in history was born from solitude. The writer, the philosopher, the athlete, the warrior. They all withdrew from the crowd to find focus, because focus demands quiet. Noise scatters attention. Silence gathers it. When you're alone, you can hear your own thoughts clearly. You can ask hard questions. You can see what's working and what's not. You can confront your weaknesses without judgment. That's where growth happens, in the mirror of solitude. Because in silence, there's nowhere to hide, no excuses, no distractions, just truth. And truth is uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. Here's what solitude really does. It strengthens your decision-making muscle. When you're constantly surrounded by people, opinions bleed into your mind. You start thinking in echoes, not in clarity. You start living through others' expectations. But when you detach, when you spend time alone, you reclaim your mental sovereignty. You learn to think for yourself, to decide for yourself, to stand by your own convictions. You stop being reactive. You start being intentional. That's the foundation of mental toughness. That's the heart of emotional control. Silence is where strong minds are forged. Let's talk about what happens to most people. They wake up and immediately reach for their phone. The world floods in before their mind even wakes up. Notifications, messages, opinions. By the time they get out of bed, they're already mentally hijacked. No wonder they're anxious. No wonder they're reactive. They never gave their mind time to breathe. They never created space for original thought. Solitude is that space. It's the reset button for your brain. You don't need a vacation. You don't need a new environment. You need stillness, intentional stillness. 10 minutes in silence will do more for your clarity than 10 hours of scrolling. That's not philosophy. That's fact. Here's how you build the discipline of solitude. Step 1. Schedule silence. Make it non-negotiable. Wake up before the world does. Sit with your thoughts. No music, no phone, no distractions. You'll feel uncomfortable at first. That's normal. That's withdrawal, not from people, but from dependency. Stay there. Let the discomfort pass. You'll notice something incredible. Your mind starts organizing itself. Ideas surface. Emotions calm. Priorities sharpen. That's solitude working on you. Step 2. Use solitude to create, not escape. Solitude isn't about isolation. It's about incubation. When you're alone, build something. Write, plan, reflect, train. Turn solitude into a workshop for your future. Don't just sit in silence, work in silence. That's how you convert solitude into strength. While they talk, you think. While they scroll, you strategize. While they distract themselves, you develop yourself. You don't need their permission to grow. You don't need their presence to evolve. That's the difference between existing and becoming. Step 3. Protect your solitude. Because once you start valuing silence, you'll realize how many people try to steal it. Some won't understand why you don't reply immediately. Some will take your quiet as distance. Let them. You don't owe anyone constant access. You owe yourself peace. Your solitude is sacred. It's not a punishment, it's preparation. You're building something they can't see yet. And that's fine. You're not here to explain. You're here to execute. Stop apologizing for wanting time alone. Stop explaining why you're unavailable. Stop seeking permission to disconnect. You have a right to silence. You have a right to peace. You have a right to yourself. That's the power of solitude. Let me give you a truth that most never learn. You can't find your voice in the crowd. You find it in the quiet moments no one sees. When the world gets loud, retreat. When opinions flood in, unplug. When you lose your center, return to silence. Because silence doesn't weaken you, it rebuilds you. When you learn to be alone, you become unshakable. You no longer depend on validation. You no longer fear rejection. You no longer chase approval. You move through life with quiet confidence because you know who you are, and you built that identity in solitude. That's unbreakable. Remember this: if you can't be alone with yourself, you'll always be controlled by others. If you can't handle silence, you'll always drown in noise. You have a choice. You can keep chasing comfort, or you can pursue clarity. You can keep running from yourself, or you can finally meet yourself. And when you do, when you sit in that silence long enough, you'll find peace. Not the peace they sell you, not the peace of distraction, but the peace of alignment. Because when the noise fades, the truth speaks. And that truth will guide you further than any advice, any validation, any crowd. Silence is not empty. Silence is full of answers. That's the key. That's where strong minds are forged. So choose solitude. Seek it. Protect it. Be alone, but not lonely. Be quiet, but not passive. Be still, but not stagnant. In solitude, you don't lose connection. You deepen it. With your thoughts, with your goals, with your purpose. Because in the silence, you don't escape life. You finally hear it clearly. Silence is where strong minds are forged. Never forget that. Chapter 9. Rejection is redirection. Rejection. That word alone stops people in their tracks. It burns. It stings. It makes you question everything about yourself. But listen closely. Rejection is not punishment. Rejection is protection. Rejection is redirection. Every no builds your direction. Every closed door saves your energy. That's the key. When someone rejects you, they're not defining your worth. They're revealing their limits. They're showing you who and what was never meant to carry your future. You have a choice. You can internalize rejection and shrink, or you can use it as fuel to refine, realign, and rise. Here's the truth. You've been trained to see rejection as failure. School taught you that a failed grade means you're not good enough. Society taught you that being turned down means you're not wanted. Relationships taught you that if someone leaves, you're not lovable. But those are lies. Rejection is not a verdict. It's a message. It's life saying, not here, not yet, not this way. That's not failure. That's direction. That's the path, closing, so you'll finally walk toward the one that's actually meant for you. You don't need their permission to keep moving forward. You don't need their acceptance to grow. You don't need their approval to succeed. What you need is the discipline to turn no into next. Think about it. The job you didn't get, the person who ghosted you, the project that didn't take off, the opportunity that fell through. You thought it was the end. But looking back, wasn't it a setup for something better? You wouldn't have started that business if the company hadn't rejected you. You wouldn't have found peace if that relationship hadn't collapsed. You wouldn't have developed resilience if life hadn't said, "Not this time." Rejection builds redirection. That's the pattern. That's the truth. Every no saves your energy from being wasted on the wrong thing. Every no forces you to adapt, to sharpen, to evolve. Every no trains your patience and tests your persistence. The rejection you feel today might just be the protection you'll thank tomorrow. The weak take rejection personally. The strong take it strategically. The weak say, "Why me?" The strong say, "What now?" That's the difference. That's the discipline. It's not about emotion. It's about execution. It's not about the door that closed. It's about the direction you take next. Rejection only destroys those who attach their identity to outcomes. But if your identity is built on purpose, no rejection can break you. That's what separates the fragile from the focused. Let's look at real examples. Walt Disney was fired because his editor said he lacked imagination. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for television. Steve Jobs was kicked out of the company he built. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers. Every one of them heard no. Every one of them could have stopped there, but they didn't. They used rejection as redirection. They took the same pain that could have crushed them and used it to build something stronger. You think you're the only one who's been told no? You're not. You're just the next one in line to turn it into something powerful. That's your test. That's your choice. Rejection has one goal: to teach you detachment. When you stop taking rejection personally, you gain peace. When you stop begging for acceptance, you gain focus. When you stop chasing doors that won't open, you start finding the ones that will. That's the shift. That's how rejection turns into redirection. Because life will always close doors that don't align with your growth. Not because you're unworthy, but because you've outgrown them. The problem is, most people fight to reopen those doors. They keep knocking. They keep explaining. They keep trying to prove they deserve to be let in. But you don't need to convince anyone who's already shown you their limits. When someone rejects you, believe them. When life blocks a path, respect it. Then move quickly toward the next one. That's not quitting. That's evolving. Here's how to handle rejection with discipline, not emotion. Step 1. Pause. Don't react. Rejection triggers emotion. The ego flares up. You want to fight back. Don't. Pause. Breathe. Separate the event from your worth. It's not about you, it's about alignment. That's the key. Step 2. Extract the lesson. Every rejection carries information. What can you learn? What needs refinement? What can you improve before the next opportunity? Rejection becomes redirection when you stop blaming and start learning. Step 3. Reinvest your energy. Take that same energy you were spending chasing approval and pour it into growth. Train harder, study deeper, create better. While they reject, you rebuild. While they doubt, you develop. While they walk away, you walk forward. Every no builds your direction. Every closed door saves your energy. Rejection is a filter, not a failure. It filters out weak opportunities, weak people, and weak paths. If everyone said yes to you, you'd be overwhelmed with distractions. If every door opened, you'd walk through the wrong ones. Rejection sharpens focus. It forces you to clarify what truly matters. It builds emotional resilience. It kills entitlement. And it teaches gratitude, because when the right door finally opens, you'll know what it took to get there. That's not a setback. That's refinement. You have to stop seeing no as a wall. It's a mirror. It's showing you where you still need to grow. You want to know what emotional control really looks like? It's hearing no and not flinching. It's being told you're not ready and replying, "I will be." It's facing closed doors and building your own instead. You don't crumble, you construct. You don't beg, you build. You don't react, you redirect. That's the formula for mental toughness. That's how discipline turns rejection into advantage. Because while they're rejecting you, they're actually freeing you. Freeing you from false paths, fake people, and wasted energy. Let them say no. Let them walk away. Let them underestimate. You just keep walking. You just keep working. You just keep proving that rejection doesn't end your story. It starts your rise. Remember this mantra. Every no builds my direction. Every closed door saves my energy. Every rejection refines my focus. You're not losing opportunities. You're losing distractions. You're not being abandoned. You're being aligned. You're not being shut out. You're being set up. That's the mindset of strength. That's the discipline of perspective. You have a choice. You can live bitter or you can live better. You can focus on what left or you can focus on what's next. The strong always choose forward. Rejection is not the end. It's the reroute. It's the map redirecting you towards something more aligned, more worthy, more powerful. So the next time you hear no, don't freeze, don't flinch, don't fall apart. Stand taller, say thank you, then move with purpose, because now you're walking toward what's truly yours. Rejection is redirection. That's the key. That's the discipline. That's how you build an unshakable mind. Chapter 10. Freedom, the art of not caring. Freedom. Everyone talks about it. Few actually live it. Because real freedom isn't found in money, travel, or success. It's found in the mind. It's found in the quiet confidence of knowing who you are and no longer needing anyone's permission to be that person. True freedom is the art of not caring. Not caring about opinions that don't serve your growth. Not caring about validation that keeps you trapped in performance. Not caring about the noise that pulls you away from your purpose. Most people are prisoners. Not behind bars, but inside their own minds. They're chained to other people's approval. They wake up every day performing for a crowd that isn't even watching. They post for likes. They speak for acceptance. They move for applause. They build a life not because it's true, but because it's popular. That's not freedom. That's dependency disguised as ambition. When you care too much about being liked, you lose yourself. You bend your truth to fit their comfort. You hide your fire to avoid their judgment. You mute your voice so they won't disapprove. And then you wonder why you feel lost, why you feel tired, why you feel hollow even when you're winning. You're not tired, you're trapped. You're not weak, you're wired for validation. But here's the truth. You can rewire that. You can rebuild your sense of worth from the inside out. Because freedom starts when approval ends. You have a choice. You can keep chasing validation, or you can choose liberation. Let's get something straight. Not caring doesn't mean being cold. It means being clear. It means knowing the difference between what matters and what doesn't. It means separating feedback from fear. It means acting from conviction instead of insecurity. It's not about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's not about rebellion. It's about self-respect. It's not about ignoring everyone. It's about listening to the right voice, your own. When you stop caring what everyone thinks, you finally start hearing what you think. That's the shift. That's freedom. Think about the people who changed the world. They were not liked at first. They were misunderstood, mocked, and criticized. Stoics called it indifference to opinion. Warriors called it detachment. Artists called it authenticity. Leaders call it vision. Different names, same truth. They refuse to let fear of judgment dictate their moves. They refused to trade their authenticity for approval. And that's exactly why they broke through. You can't lead if you need to be liked. You can't create if you fear being misunderstood. You can't rise if you're obsessed with fitting in. You have to choose. You can belong to the crowd, or you can belong to yourself. But you can't do both. That's the cost of freedom. That's the discipline of independence. You want to be free? Then stop negotiating your peace for their comfort. Stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop chasing validation that vanishes as soon as you get it. You don't need their permission to be at peace. You don't need their approval to be proud. You don't need their applause to feel alive. That's not arrogance. That's ownership. You own your time. You own your energy. You own your choices. And once you own those, you're untouchable. Let's talk about how to build that mindset in real life. Step 1. Audit your dependencies. Ask yourself, who am I performing for? Who am I trying to impress? Whose opinion can still ruin my day? Write down those names. Look at that list. That's your prison. Now start removing the locks, one by one. Detach. Step back. Breathe. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your peace. Step 2. Build internal metrics. Stop measuring yourself by external approval. Create internal standards. Ask, did I act with integrity today? Did I honor my discipline? Did I move closer to my purpose? That's it. That's your scoreboard now. The world's applause is inconsistent, but your inner scoreboard never lies. That's how you stay centered. Step 3. Practice silence. When you stop reacting, you start regaining control. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them assume. Your silence is your statement. Your calm is your power. Your discipline is your proof. The less you explain, the freer you become. Freedom is mental clarity. It's emotional discipline. It's spiritual strength. It's the ability to walk away without resentment, to stay grounded while others seek chaos, to trust your voice even when no one else understands it. Freedom is not the absence of pressure. It's the mastery of it. It's not the absence of judgment. It's indifference to it. It's not about control. It's about surrendering what you can't control. You stop fighting for validation. You start fighting for alignment. That's the shift that changes everything. When you stop caring about being liked, you become magnetic. People sense your certainty. They feel your groundedness. They respect your calm. Because authenticity is rare, and people crave what's real, even when they reject it at first. So stop trying to be impressive. Be consistent. Be disciplined. Be free. That's where your true power lives, in your refusal to betray yourself for acceptance. You've been told to chase success, but the real goal is sovereignty, mental, emotional, spiritual. Freedom means you no longer need to be chosen. You choose yourself. Freedom means you no longer need to be validated. You validate your own path. Freedom means you no longer react to noise. You move in silence, led by vision, not validation. You don't need their permission. You don't need their praise. You don't need their attention. You already have what they can't give: peace of mind. Let's end this with a declaration, a final affirmation to lock this truth into your mind. Repeat after me. Say it out loud. Say it like you mean it. I no longer need permission. I no longer chase validation. I am free. Say it again. I no longer need permission. I no longer chase validation. I am free. Feel the weight of those words. Feel the clarity. Feel the strength that comes when you finally stop asking and start owning. You are no longer controlled by fear. You are no longer driven by approval. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are free. Free to move, free to create, free to be exactly who you are, without apology, without hesitation, without compromise. That's the ultimate discipline. That's the peak of emotional control. That's what mental toughness looks like in its purest form. Because freedom isn't loud, it's quiet, it's calm, it's certain, and once you taste it, you never go back. Every opinion fades, every judgment disappears, but the way you see yourself, that stays. You've learned that caring too much is the enemy of growth, that validation is a trap, that silence is strength. The world wants your attention, your reaction, your emotional energy, but you choose discipline. You choose to be still while others seek applause. You choose to move in purpose, not performance. Remember, the moment you stop needing to be liked, you become powerful. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you become untouchable. And the moment you stop caring what others think, you finally start living. So from this moment forward, act without fear, speak with conviction, and walk your own path. Because freedom begins the second you decide, I don't care what they think. I care about who I'm becoming.